Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Hello and welcome to ForumIAS. Today is 19th August 2023 and these are all the articles that we are going to discuss today. Let us go to the first article. The first article is about the Bihar caste census. So this caste census of Bihar was challenged in the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court refuses to put a stay on publication of the Bihar caste survey data. So what are the arguments in favor of this? What are the arguments against of this Bihar caste census? We will see. Firstly, I have already explained why this particular article is in news. Now we will move on to the next aspect. It was contested on the basis of the breach to right to privacy. But the court has asked that how is the right to privacy affected when somebody is asked to give his caste or subcaste? Why is it not considered as a breach of privacy? That is because the individual caste or subcaste data is not released to the public. What is released is the cumulative figures. That means an individual's caste data will not be released, but cumulative figures, that is of this particular caste, how many people are there in Bihar, the next caste, how many people are there in Bihar, and in that caste, how many men are there, how many women are there. These type of cumulative figures would only be released. It would be a breach of privacy if an individual's caste related information are released. That is the reasoning given by the Supreme Court. And moreover, the court says that a person's caste is generally known to the neighbors. And there is also no element of compulsion for a person to mention the caste to the census takers. There is no penalty involved if a person chooses not to fill this up. So, in that measure, this is not a breach of privacy. So, this particular Bihar caste census has been undertaken on the basis of an executive order passed on June 6, 2022. So, basically, this census is termed as an exercise that breaches a fundamental right, that is, the right to privacy. It can't be taken care by a simple executive order. Instead, there should be a statutory backing, which means there should be a law authorizing such a census to be carried out, because this particular census has bearings on privacy. That is the argument that was put forth by the petitioners. They said that there should be a law that mandates this, because even when a fundamental right is taken away, it should be according to the procedure established by law. It can't be arbitrarily taken away by an executive order. That is also another reasoning of the petitioners. That is, a fundamental right cannot be infringed upon on the basis of an administrative order. States' welfare measures would be tailored on the basis of data collected from survey. So, we earlier saw that the state is not breaching the privacy because individual data is not released. What is the main purpose of the state of Bihar collecting the data? It was to target the schemes effectively. On the basis of the data collected from the survey, the backwardness can be measured, and using that, schemes can be effectively targeted. There is another argument which is against this Bihar caste census. It is that this survey has violated Schedule 7 of the Constitution. What is Schedule 7? Schedule 7 is where the union list, state list, concurrent list are mentioned. Okay. And this survey of Bihar, it also violates the Census Act 1948 and the Census Rules 1990. Why? Because census is mentioned in the Union list of the 7th schedule of Constitution, and according to this, Census Act was enacted by the central government. So if Bihar is independently carrying out a caste census, it is against the Census Act as well as the 7th schedule. So we have understood the pros and cons, the arguments for and against this Bihar caste census. Let us move to the next article. The second article is about India-Japan tech diplomacy. India and Japan have decided to collaborate in the semiconductor sector. Regarding that, this opinion piece has come in today's newspaper. Now we will discuss what is the importance of this collaboration. The India-Japan collaboration on semiconductors will focus on 5 areas: semiconductor design, semiconductor manufacturing, semiconductor equipment research, establishing resilience in the semiconductor supply chain, and talent development. In order to achieve these 5 objectives, there would be government to government as well as industry to industry collaborations. This semiconductor collaboration between India and Japan is an alignment of policies. How? India's Make in India policy and Japan's Society 5.0, they both share a vision. What is that vision? Technological self-reliance and innovation-driven growth. Now, the Make in India has been scaled up to Atmanirbhar Bharat. As a part of that initiative also, we are focusing on self-reliance, especially technological self-reliance. And Japan Society 5.0 also focuses on a similar objective. Bilateral agreements have been signed to promote technology transfer, cooperation in semiconductor research, reciprocal trade in semiconductor related products. Japan is a pioneer in this semiconductor field. So it is important for this bilateral agreement to have an element of technology transfer. The present cutting edge technology can be transferred to India by means of joint manufacturing, so that India will also get to know the technical know-how and we can also achieve the objective of Make in India. India has a growing information technology sector. So, if information technology sector is growing, we need the necessary hardware products, and that is possible through the semiconductor products across industries. If information technology sector in India has to be successful, then there should be a successful semiconductor sector also. As far as we know, at this point, India is a number 1 in the technological exports. In that context, semiconductor technology becomes very important for India's manufacturing and services sector. In the Indo-Pacific region, there are some problems like supply chain disruptions because of geopolitical tensions in the Indo-Pacific region. So, in that context, we need to diversify the semiconductor supply chains, and there is a necessity for cross-country collaboration. What does this mean? It hints at China. Geopolitical tensions, if that happens, supply from China would be affected. So that is why there should be diversification of supply chains and there should be cross-country collaboration in order to diversify the market, diversify the production centers as well. Joint research initiatives enable the pooling of resources and expertise to tackle complex challenges in semiconductor design, manufacturing processes, and material science. Together we are stronger. So India and Japan can pool their resources. Japan has the technical know-how. India has enormous availability of qualified human resources. So India and Japan can pool their resources and take advantage of these resources in order to solve complex challenges in semiconductor design, manufacturing, material science. Material science is related to choosing of materials for manufacturing. For example, semiconductors are manufactured using silicon, germanium, etc. But these are of limited supply. They are exhaustible natural resources. So we are also looking for efficient materials. That is why material science is also important. And there is also a factor of American partnership. That is, the agreement with Japan follows close on the heels of charting of a technology partnership for the future between United States and India. So in that context, India-Japan collaboration is also a welcome move. As we already know, India, Japan, US are all part of the Quad grouping. Australia is the other member. So if there is already a collaboration between India and Japan, the upcoming collaboration between India and US would also be very useful. India-Japan collaboration will also remain dynamic. It will address new challenges like semiconductor miniaturization, AI integration, and quantum computing. So these are all the emerging areas. Semiconductor miniaturization is packing of as many semiconductors as possible within a small area. We all know that the storage devices, in order to store 1 GB of data, there were super large computers required at one point. Today, we can store 1 GB of data in as small as a memory chip like this. So that is semiconductor miniaturization. Apart from that, AI, quantum computing are all emerging technologies, and they also require specialized semiconductors. An India-Japan partnership would be dynamic enough to address these demands. There is also China factor involved in this. As we all know, China is the largest producer of semiconductor chips. So in order to contest with that, the US came up with the US Chips and Science Act of 2022. So this act, it places strategic curbs on the expansion of semiconductor manufacturing by countries posing a direct threat to the US, including China. So in this context, if the US has an explicit law which aims to limit the semiconductor technology expansion in countries like China, India, Japan and US collaboration in the semiconductor field becomes all the more important because this is a consolidation among like-minded partners, and that too they are in the same Indo-Pacific region. And semiconductor technology is a critical technology. Why? Today all the data, they are stored in electronic form, and the basis for that is the hardware which is composed of semiconductors. If there is any data breach, that amounts to election defraudment and also loss of financial data, massive losses in terms of economy. So semiconductor technology is one of the critical technology, and this is acknowledged through the vis-a-vis geostrategic and national security concerns. So collaboration in semiconductor is not only technology related, it is also related to the geostrategic and the national security concerns because of the e-economy that we are all operating in today. Japan and Netherlands, they also joined the US in restricting exports of semiconductor manufacturing materials required in the making of advanced chips to China. So they are restricting the export of raw materials for advanced chips to China. Even though this affects Japan's economy, Japan is on board with this because of the geopolitical concerns over China's expanding chip making capabilities. And this is also important in the context of India, Japan and US semiconductor partnership. This shows the confidence that is placed in India by the two Quad countries, which are Japan and the US. So This particular article highlights the importance of collaboration of India and Japan in the semiconductor industry, and it implies that it is more than tech diplomacy. It is also linked to national security and geopolitics because of the role of China in this sector. The next article is about hate speech. So the Supreme Court has said that hate speech will be prosecuted equally no matter the faith. First, we have to understand what is hate speech. Hate speech is defined by the 267th report of the Law Commission of India. Hate speech is stated as an incitement to hatred primarily against a group of persons defined in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religious belief, and the like. So, what is hate speech? Hate speech is nothing but incitement of hatred. And this incitement can be in any form. It can be verbal as well as non-verbal. It can be in written format. It can be in spoken format. It can be in electronic format. It can be in print. So, many ways of incitement of hatred against a particular community, and the community can be targeted based on any of their identities like language, religion, sexual orientation, etc. So, this is what is hate speech as defined by the Law Commission report. This particular article is in news not only because of the Supreme Court's comment on how hate speech would be prosecuted, it is also because the number of hate speech cases that are registered, they are also increasing. According to the National Crime Records Bureau data, there were only 323 cases of hate speech registered in 2014, and this has now increased to 1,804 cases in 2020, and this shows the increasing number of hate speech cases. And in that context, Supreme Court has said that instances of hate speech would be prosecuted equally no matter the faith of the offender. That means even if the majority community is talking against the minority community, or a minority community is talking against a majority community, that is hate speech, or if there is one minority community which is doing hate speech against another minority community, regardless of the perpetrator, all kinds of hate speech would be prosecuted equally. Moreover, in October 2022, the court commented that it is tragic what we have reduced religion to, because religion is considered to be a solace, but today religion is getting weaponized. That is the context of this comment. And there is a climate of hate that prevails in the country. This has been said by the Supreme Court. So, the court said that instead of waiting for a complaint to be filed, the police can immediately, by suo motu, register cases against hate speech makers and offenders. So, if they are committing the act of communal violence, then the police can themselves suo motu register a complaint without waiting for someone to file a complaint, which means it is cognizable by the police. That means police can themselves register a case against hate speech, whether it is committed by any person from majority community or minority community. Why this responsibility is given to state? Because it is the sacrosanct duty of the state to protect the lives of its citizens. If someone is giving hate speech, it will create a environment of threat. It will make the target of that hate speech to fear for their life and safety. So in that context, state has a sacrosanct duty. That is why the court is coming down strongly against hate speech. And one court case in this context is the Tehseen Poonawalla case. In this case, the court issued guidelines for the states and the police of the various states of India to prevent to control and deter mob violence and lynchings. So, this is the importance of hate speech and related case laws in today's context. Moving on to the next article, it talks about the state of revival of trade in India. The entire article, it has been beautifully summarized by this graphic. Okay, we will see this graphic first. It says that while India struggles to boost exports, there are signs of resilience in local demand and revival in private investments. The global economy is not in a very good state. In that context, global demand is less. So that is why the exports from India are also less. But then there is enough domestic demand in order to counteract this reduction in global demand. That is, a reduction in global demand is getting compensated by increase in domestic demand. India recorded 14% and 8.4% year-over-year rise in the import of machinery and machine tools respectively. Why is this a positive information? Because this machinery that has been imported into India, this machinery will be used to produce some goods, right? And these goods would be sold either in the domestic market or they would be exported. So which means there is a demand for producing such goods. That is why the import of machinery is a very encouraging trend. Core, excluding oil and gold exports and imports, fell by much less than the overall dip in foreign trade. Now let us understand this point using data. So the dip in exports as well as imports was largely fueled by petroleum and gems and jewelry. So if you see, if you take the overall export and import, overall export, it is down by 17%. Export as well as import, both are down by 17%. The article is saying that this drop in export and import together, it is because of the crude oil and gems and jewelry sector. But barring that, the downfall in the export import is just 5.7% and 7.5% respectively. That is, core exports fell by 5.7% and core import fell by 7.5% only. What does this mean? It means that the basic things, that is food grains, vegetables, fruits, etc., which are needed for day-to-day survival, milk, all those things we are not exporting. We are not importing. That is an encouraging trend. We are importing gems and jewelry or exporting gems and jewelry. That is a non-necessary good. Because of that, if there is a dip in export and import, it is acceptable. What is encouraging is that we are not depending on the rest of the world for our basic necessities. That is the overall meaning of this second point. An expected slowdown in domestic growth in the second half of 2023 is expected to keep a check on India's imports. If there is a slowdown, it is a bad thing, right, in domestic economy. But then if there is a slowdown in the domestic economy, there will be less demand, especially for crude oil. Then we need not import as much crude oil. So that is a way to curb our current account deficit, which we would have studied in static economy. So that is also an encouraging trend. That is, so to say, a silver lining in a worrying thing. The worrying problem is the slowdown in the domestic growth. But then the silver lining is the imports might be lesser. Overall, this article we have seen in the form of an infographic. Next article is about an RBI circular. So RBI has issued guidelines to these entities, that is banks, NBFCs and other lenders. Why? Because RBI wants to ensure reasonableness and transparency in disclosure of penal interest. That is, what is this penal interest? We have to understand that first. The lenders, that is the banks, NBFCs, etc., they were using penal rates of interest over and above applicable interest rates in case there is a default, in case there is a non-compliance by the borrower. So, if the borrower is non-compliant to the agreements of the credit, that is, whenever there is a loan taken, there is a credit agreement, right? The loan papers, they are also called as credit agreement. Whenever there is a breach of credit agreement by the borrower, then the banks, the NBFCs, that is the lenders, they impose a penal rate of interest. Supposing, according to the credit agreement, the rate of interest is 6%. If this particular borrower did not pay 1 or 2 installments on time, in order to compensate this breach of credit agreement, that is non-payment of dues, banks and lenders, that is the NBFCs, banks, they can impose penal rate of interest. So instead of 6%, it can become 7%. 1% penal rate of interest has been imposed. The RBI says that the intent of levying penal interest is essentially to inculcate a sense of credit discipline, and such charges are not meant to be used as a revenue enhancement tool over and above the contracted rate of interest. So, this 1% extra interest, that is the penal interest, it is only to inculcate a credit discipline. This borrower, they missed this borrower, they have missed 2 repayment cycles. That is why this penal rate of interest is imposed. But what is happening is the banks are using this extra interest as a revenue enhancement tool. That is not the purpose of penal rate of interest. It is to inculcate credit discipline. If this time there is a penal rate of interest, next time onwards the borrower will pay on time in order to avoid this. That is the purpose. But then it is used as a revenue enhancement tool. Okay, so this is leading to a large number of customer grievances and disputes. So RBI had said that hereafter there would be no penal interest. Instead, there would be penal charges. Even if someone misses their repayment schedule, the interest rate would be the same which was there in the credit agreement. Any penalty will be in the form of absolute amount. Say ₹1,000 extra penal charges can be imposed, not the penal interest rate. If there is penal interest rate, what happens? They have to pay a higher interest rate. But in case of penal charges, it would be a one-time payment. So it will achieve the target of inculcating credit discipline as well. And it will not be misused by the banks to enhance their revenue. So RBI had said that hereafter you can levy only penal charges and no penal interest. And then on this 1,000 rupees also you cannot impose interest. It can't be capitalized. That is, there shall be no capitalization of penal charges. That is, no further interest computed on such charges. Okay, so this is about this RBI circular. It essentially says that there won't be any penal interest. Instead, we will be shifting to penal charges. Okay, so we are at the end of the discussion. We will see some previous year question. Consider the following states: Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha. With reference to the states mentioned above, in terms of percentage of forest cover to the total area of state, which one of the following is the correct ascending order? Ascending order means small to big, and they are asking percentage of forest cover to the total area of the state. If there is, say for example, the state of Maharashtra, how much percentage of area of Maharashtra is forest? That is what we have to interpret here, and we have to arrange from small to big. So the state with maximum percentage of forest area is Chhattisgarh. Okay, nearly 41% of that state is forest area, and the lowest among this is Maharashtra. That is only 16% of the total area of Maharashtra is composed of forest. So the smallest is 3, that is Maharashtra. The largest is Chhattisgarh. So that is mentioned here. So the answer is C, 3241. Next question. Which of the following are in Agasthyamala Biosphere Reserve? This Agasthyamala Biosphere Reserve is in Western Ghats. Okay. So option A, Neyyar, Peppara and Shendurni, Kalakkad Mundanturai Tiger Reserve. B, Mudumalai, Satyamangalam, Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuaries, Silent Valley National Park. C, Kaundinya, Gundla Brahmeshwaram and Papikonda Wildlife Sanctuaries. This is straight away wrong because this Gundla Brahmeshwaram, Papikonda, Kaundinya are in Andhra Pradesh, and we know that in Andhra Pradesh there is no Western Ghats. Kaval and Sri Venkateshwara Wildlife Sanctuaries, Nagarjuna Sagar Srisailam Tiger Reserve. This is also wrong because Nagarjuna Sagar Srisailam is in the border of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, and they also doesn't form a part of Western Ghats. Now we are left with 2 options, and the correct among this is option A, Neyyar, Peppara, Shendurni Wildlife Sanctuary and Kalakkad Mundanturai Tiger Reserve. So this is the answer. That's it for today's discussion. Follow us on all these social media platforms. Thank you, all the best. This is Indumati signing off.